She held her daughter's hand while the IV dripped into her arm. She wiped her mouth after spoon-feeding her. Medicine she didn't need? She smiled sweetly when the doctors praised her strength, when strangers called her brave. But behind that gentle voice was something cold. Behind the pink pajamas, the Disney trips, and the charity visits was a woman who had weaponized motherhood, not for protection, but for power. Her name was Clauddine Dee Dee Blanchard, and she didn't just fabricate illness. She built a world of sickness and forced her daughter to live in it. Welcome to GBRLIFE of Crimes, part of GBRLIFE Transmissions, where we explore not just what happened in crimes committed by women, but why they happened and the psychology behind them. I'm your host, Caitlin, and today we're pulling apart the threads of what's real, what's madness, and what hides behind the people we're told to trust through the story of a woman who fooled everyone, including herself. In this two-part episode on Gypsy Rose, we begin with the woman who set the stage, Dee Dee Blanchard, a mother, a manipulator, or something else entirely. Dee Dee was born in 1967 in Louisiana. From a young age, she was described as manipulative, sly, always bending the truth to get what she wanted. Family members say it wasn't just childish fibs. It was pathological. She lied even when there was nothing to gain, just to watch how people would react, to feel in control. Her teenage years were laced with tension because she forged signatures, opened credit cards under relatives' names, blamed others when she got caught. Then there were whispers about how she treated her pets, controlling what they ate, confining them in strange ways. Small red flags that were brushed off as quirks, but one incident struck the family in a way that they would never forget. Dee Dee's stepmother had fallen mysteriously ill, not once, but repeatedly. Her symptoms escalated after meals prepared by Dee Dee. Doctors were baffled until someone checked the cleaning supplies. A nearly empty bottle of Roundup weed killer sat beneath the sink. Her stepmother recovered after Dee Dee moved out. No charges were filed, but the family took notice. They knew something wasn't right, but like many who encountered a charming manipulator, they second-guessed themselves. It was easier to believe she was just troubled or lonely or misunderstood. It started small, a little fraud, a little drama, a little poison in the tea. Then came Rod Blanchard. Dee Dee met Rod when she was in her early 20s. He was just 17. She was older, confident, attention-grabbing. Rod says he fell for the version of her she wanted him to see. When she got pregnant, he felt trapped, and they married briefly. Rod knew immediately that it wasn't going to work. He left Dee Dee while she was still pregnant with Gypsy Rose. But Dee Dee didn't just move on, she rewrote the story. She told friends and family that Rod was abusive, and then he abandoned them, that he didn't care. But the truth? Rod tried to stay in Gypsy's life. He sent gifts, called regularly, paid child support without fail, but Dee Dee controlled the narrative. She filtered every interaction. She made sure he was just a shadow in Gypsy's life. And when Gypsy was born in 1991, Dee Dee saw an opportunity, a fresh stage, a new script, a captive audience. And there was one problem. Gypsy Rose was born healthy. Dee Dee named her Gypsy Rose because she liked the way it sounded. Part whimsical, part tragic. And soon she began building a life around that tragedy. Doctors, teachers, neighbors, all told the same story. A rare chromosomal disorder. But there was no diagnosis. Still, Dee Dee insisted. It was the beginning of something carefully curated, something monstrous. Because motherhood for Dee Dee wasn't about nurturing. It was about identity. It was about praise. It was about never being left behind again. And by the time Gypsy was 3 months old, the diagnosis started piling up. Sleep apnea, then leukemia, then muscular dystrophy, epilepsy, asthma, vision problems, hearing loss, back to the defects, a tumor, seizures. Gypsy was placed in a wheelchair, given a feeding tube, had her saliva glands removed. Her teeth fell out from unnecessary medications. She was told she had the mind of a 7-year-old, even as she grew into a teenager. And when anyone asked too many questions, Dee Dee moved. Most people don't realize how strategic Dee Dee was. Rod was clearly pushed out, and she manipulated doctors with 2 deceptive, simple tools. A massive binder of medical records, dozens of pages long, to overwhelm any new provider, and a story about how crucial files were lost during Hurricane Katrina. And then she switched providers constantly, so no one ever saw the full pictures. And she didn't just lie to doctors, she lied to Gypsy. Told her she couldn't walk, that her brain didn't work right, that her father didn't want her, that her cancer would cause her to die without her pills. This was confusion. That wasn't actual confusion. This was design. Dee Dee's behavior fit a rare and deeply disturbing diagnosis. Fictitious disorder imposed on another, but more commonly known as Munchausen by proxy, is when a caregiver, most often a mother, either fabricates or causes illness in someone under their care to gain attention and sympathy. And Dee Dee lived for the praise, the admiration, the identity. Every new diagnosis brought up new rewards, donations, free trips, a house from Habitat for Humanity, and media coverage praising her as a hero. Gypsy was her ticket, and Dee Dee wasn't going to let that ticket walk away. She kept Gypsy isolated, out of school, out of reach, out of reality. She dressed her in childlike clothes, spoke for her, presented her as 4 to 5 years younger than she really was, and if Gypsy pushed back, Dee Dee hit her, tied her down, withheld food, threatened to call police, and have her institutionalized. It wasn't parenting. It was psychological imprisonment. And Dee Dee played the caregiver role so convincingly, even Gypsy believed she was sick. Imagine being told, since your birth, that your body is broken and never being allowed to ask why. And here's where it gets more uncomfortable. Dee Dee didn't do this alone. She was enabled by a medical system too overworked to cross-check her claims, by a society that praises martyr mothers and questions nothing beneath a sweet Southern accent, by neighbors, charities, doctors, all of us, because we wanted to believe in the idea of the devoted mom. She played the perfect part, and we rewarded her for it. Her downfall didn't come from a doctor or a social worker or even a family member. It came from the one person she tried to keep powerless, Gypsy. Gypsy found the internet. She found a boy, and more than anything, she found a reason to hope, a reason to escape. And Dee Dee, she never saw it coming. So who was Dee Dee Blanchard? A narcissist? A woman with severe mental illness? A skilled manipulator, or a product of trauma herself? Maybe all of the above. Her own family said she always had a dark streak. She alienated her parents and siblings. She faked illnesses for herself long before she had Gypsy. But when motherhood gave her purpose, power, and sympathy, she clung to it like a lifeline. We say mothers are meant to protect, to nurture, to love. But what happens when the love becomes a prison? Dee Dee didn't just lie. She didn't just abuse. She didn't just control. She taught her daughter to hate herself, her body, her mind, and her very freedom. And in the end, she built a world so cruel, so suffocating, that death became the only door out. So when we ask, did Gypsy kill her mother? We also have to ask, did Dee Dee kill the child she was supposed to raise long before the knife ever touched her skin? This has been GBRLIFE of Crimes, part of GBRLIFE Transmissions, and I'm Caitlin, reminding you that understanding the darkness helps us appreciate the light. Join me next time as we uncover the second part of this story, the tale of Gypsy Rose herself. a girl raised on lies who made one horrifying choice to finally tell the truth.